How about Grandma? Did she do any of that?
Oh, I'm sure she did.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure she did. Probably even the majority of it.
Did they plant them or transplant them?
Well, they did lots of both.
Like Michael J. was your grandfather. How old were you when he died?
Oh, I suppose about 8.
So you're pretty young.
Something like that.
What do you remember about him at all, if anything?
Well, he loved to fish. He loved his vacation. Of course, that's usually when I would see him, was we'd go to Lake Wapagasset in Wisconsin, and they rented a cabin there every summer for his vacation, and he'd go out there fishing for sunnies, for a guy that had to wear a suit and white tie, white shirt and tie all year, he liked to go the other extreme and look dressed as sloppy as sort of like this, as sloppy as he could on his vacation, almost like he's proving a point. And loved to play Parcheesi.
What about his wife? What do you remember about her?
Well, she was a remarkable woman and a very sweet woman. I think I can't imagine anybody not liking her. She made great crabapple jelly, I can tell you that. Spoke, I think, 5 languages fluently. Very, very sharp person besides being very sweet. Fun person to be around. She good sense of humor. Also loved the lake. Also loved Parcheesi. Well, Grandpa Colden, of course, lived with us for many years. I don't remember how many. And I probably don't have the same fondness for the Colden side for whatever reasons, but he in his later years when he lived with us had developed, I guess, what I would call bad manners. He belched at the table while he was eating, and he smoked a pipe in his room. So to me, as a kid, it's going into his room, it just stunk. And he was quite obese. And of course, the real killer was that he spanked me. And not that I didn't deserve the spanking, I'm sure, but in my mind, at that age, I thought the only one that was entitled to spank me was my dad.
You mean Grandma Colden?
Grandma Colden. She was a rather stern appearing person, but and the little I recall of her, I don't recall her coming across as warm like Grandma Stoley, but that might be, I just didn't recognize it or something. Who knows?
So you had your Grandpa Colden living with you until he died?
For a while he lived in a house in Black Duck, and Helen would spend the summers there with them, and then I'm sure it got to the stage where he wasn't able to take care of himself or something, but he lived with us, like I say, for several years.
Helen didn't live with you at that time?
Helen was living with us also.
Oh.
And she lived in the attic. She she had a bedroom in the attic, and that Dad built up there. And it was actually a pretty nice room, but you had to go through Grandpa's bedroom to get to the attic. So I'm sure there were a lot of things about it that weren't great for Helen, but she also wanted to help take care of Grandpa Colton. So both she and Mom took very good care of Grandpa. And I think after Grandpa Colton died, then Helen got her own apartment. So then they bought. The other house was the church parsonage.
Hmm.
So then he bought his own home on the other side of Hibbing, and that's the one where they rented out the basement to usually teachers, but there was also a young couple that rented for quite a while. The early days constituted a lot of work, which for some reason or other, I didn't mind at all. Obviously, I did like the breaks from work, like if we could, go swimming or fishing or go on a journey to Namakan or someplace. I like that, of course, also, but in building, we hauled sand from the beach for cement, because the cabin over there has concrete footings all the way down to bedrock all the way around, or almost all the way around. I guess there's one little part where it doesn't go to bedrock, but it took an awful lot of cement to fill those footings, and so we haul wheelbarrow load after wheelbarrow load from the beach, and Grandpa would be operating the wheelbarrow, and Dave and I would be the mules pulling it up that hill, and he'd be yelling, "Mule train!" We had ropes, that tied around us. I don't remember exactly how. I think it was probably attached to some sort of a belt or something. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, and they were different lengths of rope because that path was narrow, so we both had to be on that path. Couldn't be side by side. We continued with the digging when Grandpa was gone, and of course, Grandma thought she was doing a favor by digging it wider, not realizing that the ditch itself was the form for the concrete, and so it just meant that much more concrete had to go in to fill it up. And while she was down there digging, an Indian by the name of Walter Caribou came up by canoe, and of course they're super quiet. And she looked up out of the trench, and here was this big Indian straddling the trench, and about scared the wits out of her. But he was just trying to find out if we needed to hire anybody to work here. And he was actually quite a nice fellow. He was a guy that if you gave him an axe, he could build you a cabin without a nail in it. And a very nice cabin. He's built a lot of cabins around this area for different people. And he had a lot of kids himself, and his own home didn't even have a floor in it. The problem was that as soon as somebody would pay him for whatever he worked he did. He would go get drunk until the money was gone, and then he'd look for work again. And he lived on an island in Grassy Bay while he was helping build back at the Moon Lodge, I think it was. And they had a vacant cabin there that they said, well, no sense you living on that island. You could stay in there. Well, so he did, other than an electric storm came up and a bolt of lightning hit the power, or the line going in that cabin, came right out the outlet and zapped him. Didn't kill him, but it shocked him. And he said, enough of that civilization stuff, and he went back to the island. You have to understand that a lot of the changes are really economic changes, because Grandpa had a limited budget and couldn't afford to buy dressers and various things that could be solved just by boxing something in. And so he went the route of the least money, and that's why the plate glass windows, that's why the windows in the glass shack, the windows in the glass shack were storefront windows before they got plate glass. And then about the time they got plate glass, somebody invented thermopane, so all the stores didn't want their windows frosted over in the winter, so nobody could see their displays, so they went with thermopane, which meant that they had those big plate glass, which Grandpa scrounged up for pennies on the dollar.